Michael McDowell from Glendale, Arizona, for Bob Jenkins Front Row Motorsports, has won the Daytona 500. How about that?
You know, he's a wild card to work with.
No one has ever started 467 races and then won his first pole. Michael McDowell has done it.
Oh, no, don't NASCAR fight. You know, NASCAR.
The 38-year-old is going to win at Indianapolis.
Where last year I would have just sailed it in there with my eyes closed.
And we are so thrilled to be joined today by one of my oldest and best friends in this business, Michael McDowell, who drives the number 71 Camaro for Spire Motorsports in the NASCAR Cup Series. Fresh off your first top 5 of the season the other day at COTA. And that has developed into a really exciting racetrack, I think, for the fans. I mean, watching Sunday, the place was packed, and you know, the Cup cars put on the best show there, I think, of anything they bring to COTA.
Yeah, definitely. I like road courses. It's my background. I'm biased, and COTA is a proper road course. I mean, it really is. And when they said they were going to, shorten it and go to the NASCAR configuration, I was like, oh no, don't NASCAR. NASCAR. Because we do that at Watkins Glen, we do that at Sonoma, but it's actually worked out to make COTA very competitive, keeps the pack very tight, creates a lot of passing opportunities. So it is a good race. It's a good racetrack. And, it's kind of fun there at the end. I mean, that's what's nice about COTA. Can pass. We had fresh tires on that last run, and we're able to drive up through the field where you don't always have that opportunity. A lot of these places, it's tough to get around and to make those braking moves late, and turn one obviously is a great spot for that.
If you don't end up in the gravel trap, right?
Yeah. The restarts are wild there though. The restarts are crazy. I mean, you're funneling down into the end of that straightaway going uphill and 6 or 7 wide. So once you get through that first lap, though, it calms down a little bit.
Yeah. And too, when you think about the road course aspect, I mean, you're always the guy that I look at as the benchmark in those events. But now when you look at SVG and all that he's accomplished in a short time in the sport, and now he seems to be getting better on ovals, and you look at a kid like Connor Zilisch, who probably would have been a top 5 car Sunday had he not been, had he not been the windshield so many times instead of being the bug. There's so many guys now that you have to think of as legitimate road course contenders alongside someone like yourself. Talk a little bit about those two drivers, kind of at opposite ends of the age and experience spectrum. Do you have to think about them when you go road course racing now above everybody else?
SVG for sure. Actually, Tyler Reddick and I had this conversation at lunch. I saw him at lunch before COTA, and he's us can beat him, But as you can see, he can be beat, right? And that's not away from him because. I mean, he's raised the bar. He's made all of us have to be better and figure out how to push ourselves and conserve tires and maximize it. And, I feel like he's elevated the game. Connor, it's hard to say. I think that he's going to, he has just incredible speed. And obviously with all the Xfinity races that he won last year, he can execute as well. But Cup racing's tough. I mean, it's just, and it's kind of showing this year he's going to be fine. I mean, this is not an indication of how his season's going to go because a lot of it's been out of his control. He had definitely outright speed at COTA. But I also feel like putting together a full race, executing all the restarts, all those things are a big part of whether or not you see victory lane in the Cup Series. And so it's just tough, and that's what was so impressive about what SVG has done, because it's not just about being the fastest. It's about executing every restart, high pressure situations. And he just doesn't seem to flinch. Right. And so, it'll be interesting to see. I like Connor a lot. He's super fast. He's got a great attitude. He seems like, just a really grounded, well-rounded race car driver for how young he is. So sky's the limit for him. But I think it's unfair to put that expectation on him that, he's going to go out there and win 3 or 4 races this rookie season. Kyle Larson didn't do that. Chase Elliott didn't do that. Ryan Blaney didn't do that. Now SVG is different. He did it. Right. but I think it's going to be hard to top that.
I can remember a couple of years ago off air, you and I having a conversation as the new car, it's not new anymore, was getting ready to come online. And you were excited about it because in a lot of ways, it's like a GT car, like a road course car, a purpose-built road race car. Now that we've seen the car and everybody's had their hands on it for a few years, it seems to me, kind of from the outside looking in, the equipment is so even now. Are tires the best strategy piece you can play at this time in your career?
Everybody is very close. Like you said, the field is tight. I mean, the top 25 are tight, but the top 10 and top 12, you could just interchange those cars. You move them from, 10th to 5th, and they're going to run 5th. And so I think the strategy, the pit stops, the execution, 2 tires, 4 tires, all that stuff is more important now than ever. Because everybody is so close that, track position is a big thing. I think at road courses, it is a big thing, but it's probably a little less because you have those deep braking zones and you can make those moves. But when you get to Phoenix, you get to Martinsville, and you get to tracks like that, strategy is a big part of it because you want to give yourself the best shot you can. Goodyear, though, the last 12 months has been working really hard on bringing a softer tire, and that softer tire has definitely changed the game a bit because we are getting fall off now, and tires do matter now, probably more than they did 2 years ago. So I feel like some of the strategy part of it is going to change because tires are becoming more important as we go to these softer tires. And we saw that at Coda, where you definitely wanted tires. I don't think you would have wanted to stay out and roll the dice and take track position. You're going to want tires. I think Phoenix the same. This tire that we're on at Phoenix is the alternate red, basically, that we ran a few years ago. So the tire will fall off, and with the extra horsepower that we have this year too, I feel like that'll add to more tire wear. So I think Phoenix will be the real test with the extra horsepower, just because you have so much throttle time there that you can actually utilize it. So I think we're all interested to see how it's going to play out.
And certainly NASCAR has wanted to take steps in conjunction with the teams and the drivers to try to make the show better at some places like Phoenix where maybe it wasn't. I've always believed in more horsepower. You're the best race car drivers in the world. You want to be able to handle 750 or 800 or even 800. You drove when their cars were making 850 horsepower. So does that challenge you more as a driver? And how much more does it challenge you at a place like Phoenix?
Yeah, it's interesting because I've been on, I've gone through a lot of different generations of these cars now. And when I got into the Cup Series, I mean, they were close to 900 horsepower. Like you said, they were fire breathing dragons that turned 11,000 RPMs. I mean, they were awesome. And I've seen it kind of go through the different transitions. And the biggest thing I think that fans probably don't fully grasp and understand is that as the technology gets better and the cars get more advanced and teams just continue to improve, the speeds of the cars continue to go up. And so had we stayed at that 900 horsepower, I mean, we'd be doing 225, 200 places like Michigan, just cars are so much more efficient than they used to be from a drag and aerodynamic standpoint. And the biggest reason why they kept pulling horsepower out of them is to slow them down so that they weren't flying up. They didn't want them flying up in the air like we saw a few times. And so it's kind of like one of those things where, yes, I think if you asked all the NASCAR officials, they'd want to have 1,000 horsepower too. You ask the drivers, they want to have 1,000 horsepower too. But the safety part of the tires, durability, and the cars not flying in the air is a big part of what goes into it. But this new car, this next gen car that we've had now for I think 4 years, and maybe this is the fifth season, it has such a wider tire, and it's got so much more contact patch that it needs more horsepower. It can take it. The brakes on the car are very good. So that's the other thing is when I first started, you had to think about brakes everywhere. Like you could boil the brake fluid out of it. You can explode a rotor. That was every weekend in the Cup Series, where now you're just so hammered down. You're not thinking about any of those things. So I think the more horsepower will be helpful. I'm not sure that it's enough to swing it as far as the fans probably want to see or the drivers want to see, but it'll be a step in the right direction.
Let me ask you more of a political question, if I can, at this stage of the season, early in the year here, 2026. Now that the lawsuit has been settled, and you and I had some conversations, I remember years ago, about the charter system and as it was being implemented back in those days. Does the charter system now, with teams sharing more in the financial the big pot of money that NASCAR takes in every year, that puts a team like Spire, I would think, on much more solid footing, lets you be a lot more competitive than maybe the team might have been a few years ago. Of course, it's a relatively new team. We understand that. Is the mood in the garage changing? Or do people see now that, you can come into this sport as a relatively new team and have success if you do the right things as a race team?
Yeah, I think it's still probably a mix of the big teams are still big. I think that they definitely have lost that big gap that they had to the smaller teams. I think when we went to this next gen car, and then also too by having a lot of those spec single source supplier parts and pieces, the bigger teams, if they want to spend more money, which they do, they can, but it doesn't offer them a huge advantage that it used to. They're not gaining hundreds and hundreds of pounds of downforce more than the other teams. They might be gaining one or two. And so the field has stayed much closer, and it's become, I don't want to say more economical, because it's still expensive to go racing. There's no doubt about it.
That'll never change.
That won't change. And what else won't change is the big team spending more money. They're going to spend more money. It's just what they do. It's racing, right? And they want a competitive advantage. So, but to answer your question is, yes, I feel like the sport's in a good spot now where, yeah, those teams might be spending $50 million more than you, but you can still be competitive if you're efficient and you do all the right things, right? And so that makes it possible, where I feel like 15 years ago, you could race, but it was probably impossible to win, right?
Yeah.
And beat those big teams, where now today it's not impossible, because a lot of the parts and pieces are the same. And if you have good people and you're efficient in what you do, you can do it without having, this monster budget. But there's no doubt about it. I don't want to paint a bad picture. It takes a lot of money to do what we're doing. It takes a lot of money to be competitive. But I do feel like the sport's in a good spot. I can't speak for the owners because I don't know, but it feels like there's a lot of positive momentum, and for us, Spire, there's a lot of positive momentum. Sponsorship is coming in, and it's that's kind of correlating with results, right? And so it moves the needle, and we know that.
You jumped over to Spire last year, and you're teamed with Carson Hocevar. Now you've got a third car, Daniel Suarez, coming over this year. 3-car team, that gives you a lot of information to deal with. It's a sign of how much Spire has grown. I remember us talking as you were about to make that move. How well has it panned out from your perspective? Is this the jump in your career you were hoping for when you left Front Row?
Yeah, it is. I don't think it's happened as fast as I'd want it to, but I think that, everybody's starting to see the speed and the potential that Spire Motorsports has. And, I think that for me, it was the right move, the timing of it. I like being a part of things. I like building. And, I think that everything had sort of run its course at Front Row for me. And obviously, I can look back now and feel good about that, but don't know, in the moment, you're just trying to make the best decision you can. And, I felt like that Spire was investing in putting themselves in position to be where we're at now and in the future too. Right. And so I feel good about it. We need to win, and that's the difference between small teams and big teams. But I think that we have the speed and the potential, and we've been close. And not just myself, but Carson's been extremely fast, and he's had great runs. And so I think we're on the right path. I think the trajectory's on path. It probably took me, like I said, a little longer last year to get going from what I was expecting. But it was probably just not managing expectations, because switching teams and manufacturers, there was a lot more nuances to it than I probably gave credit to. So I feel like we got our feet underneath us now, and we're making good strides.
You brought Travis Peterson along. He was your crew chief at Front Row. Maintaining that kind of partnership, how important is that for you as a driver? You've got a guy on the pit box you can rely on every week, right?
Yeah, no, it was great, and that did help streamline a lot of the transition. Yeah, Travis does a great job. We have a good relationship. Very honest and transparent. I mean, we both know our strengths, we both know our weaknesses, and we just kind of grind through all of it to try to keep elevating our program and getting to the results we want to get to. He's a wild card to work with. He's always going with the crazy strategies. He'll put me in, some real interesting spots. But I enjoy that, right? Because my mindset's very similar. Is like, we're here to win, and if there's an opportunity, and it might be a big chance, and it might not pay off, but you keep swinging at the ball enough, and you're going to hit one out of the park, right? And keep swinging. So yeah, I think that we got a good program here, and him and I work really well together.
And going back to Daytona for a second, you're a Daytona 500 champion, which is one of the coolest, I think, second lines in this sport. You can say that. You should have won it again, I thought, a couple of weeks ago. Fuel strategy. You were on a big fuel save strategy, weren't you? Talk about that. Was that a big swing at Daytona?
Yeah, that was a big swing. It's a part of what we do now at Daytona, saving fuel, and it's not something that I love to do either. But it's like one of those things you can't unlearn what you've learned, right? It's not going away. You can change the fuel size, you can change all these things, but the shorter pit stop's going to be faster. And we just got ourselves in a position where it looked like we could make it to the end, and nobody else could, which was crazy. And a lot of it has to do with the discipline of that, because as you get towards the end of the race, everybody's jockeying for track position before that last pit stop, and they all started to ramp up, and they all started to race each other. And I was on the radio like, hey, what are we doing? Stick to the plan. We're just saving. And then about 2 laps later, I'm like, hey, what are we doing?
You want to go.
Yeah. So, because you get nervous because you see everybody jockeying and getting in position. And so when everyone started to peel off, they came on and said, hey, we're good to go. And I'm like, good to go? Like, are you sure we're good to go? And they're like, yeah, we're good to go. So, we had two shots at it. If it would have stayed green, we would have won the race. There's no doubt. But they had a 26-second lead. They weren't going to catch us. Now, they would have closed the gap, but they would have still been 6 or 7 seconds behind us. We'd have had enough fuel. But the likelihood of that happening is so low at the end of it, 100, right?
Yeah.
So that we're still leading, and we can still make it. So it gave us two opportunities to shot at it, and felt like we went for it. And some of the things you can control, some you can't. And at the end there, it felt like we were along for the ride, unfortunately. So but it would have gone down for my crew chief as the highlight of his life. Out mileage every Daytona, right? I mean, we would have never heard the end of it. So yeah, he was excited about being in that position.
All right, two final things before I let you go. First of all, and we touched on this earlier, the change in the championship. You in the old days of last year, even win once and you're in, and you've done that a few times. Now you have to think as a points racer more kind of the way it was when you first came into the sport. How does that change your week-to-week approach as a race team and as you think about it?
Well, it definitely changed our approach at COTA. I mean, that's a perfect example for us, is that we wouldn't have taken the stage points last year. We'd have flipped the stages and try to keep all the track position, to hope that you have a shot at a late restart or a green, white checkered or whatever it is. And then even mindset behind the wheel, on that last restart that I restarted 13th or 14th with tires, I knew I had tires, and I knew I was going to be able to drive probably into the top 10, hopefully the top 5. Where last year I would have just sailed it in there with my eyes closed, hoping that I could get 8 or 9 of them in that first turn to have a shot at winning, because that's the only thing that mattered. And if you crashed, right? And so I think that do or die mentality is probably less. And I think it'll be probably helpful for us. For others, I don't know that it's going to swing the pendulum that much. I think that there's some guys that are already good at that. I think like Denny Hamlin. He's a guy that isn't going to throw away a top 5 if he doesn't truly think he can win. I would absolutely throw away every top 5 that I've ever been in if I had a shot at winning, and I have. That's why at the end of these super speedway races, like, we're leading coming to the wide or we're crashed. Like, that's kind of my mentality. And it's not the mentality that I necessarily have wanted to have. It's just what you've had to have, because that if you win, you're in, and it changes your season and it changes the next 3 years for you. And so you were willing to sort of risk everything for that moment, where now it's going to be more calculated. I could have won COTA, not scored any stage points, and not be guaranteed in the playoffs. Yeah. Right. So the approach is going to change. It's going to vary from team to team. I think that for guys like Chris Buescher and Chase Elliott, and there's a handful of other guys, it's going to fit right into their wheelhouse. They're going to keep doing what they've been doing because they've done it so well. When you think about a guy that top 5s everybody to death, it's Chase Elliott, right? He's just not making mistakes and running top 5, top 10 every weekend and scoring a lot of points. But for me, it's definitely a mind shift change of, take what you can get. Don't try to overdo it, because it doesn't pay as well to overdo it.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I'm pulling for you every week, and I hope you make all those right decisions, you and Travis, and make those right moves and get yourself in position to qualify for the, I guess we'll call it the chase, the last 10 races of playoffs at this point. Final question for you, and I've been asking everybody that we're doing this show with. You're retired from driving. You hit the lotto and you decide, I want to start a NASCAR team. 4-car team. Who are the 4 drivers from today's roster that you hire?
Oh, from today?
Yeah.
Who's today? Ross Chastain. I would put Joey Logano in it, but by the time this happens, he's going to be too old. He'll be like... So I would do Ross Chastain, Ryan Blaney. I'd put Connor in there for sure, because he's nothing but upside. And then I would probably put my teammate. I would probably put Carson in there. He's definitely the fastest guy in the garage right now.
Wow.
Whether or not he can hold it all together in all the other areas is going to be,
He brings you back the steering wheel at least most weeks, right?
Yeah. But I think that if he can put it all together, he'll win a lot of races. So that'd be my 4.
Yeah. Does Carson lean on you for advice? Does he come to you and say, hey, you've been at this almost 20 years. Tell me how I could do this better?
No, he's not looking for advice from me.
He just lays his ears back and gets after it. I know.
Yeah.
And it's good there are guys like that on the field. But my friend, it's always great to see you. All the best the rest of this year. I know we'll do this again at some point down the road. But thanks, Mike, for making time for us today.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. The great Michael McDowell, Spire Motorsports, with us here on Raceline.